And who will take us on this journey are Simona David, security researcher, and Stefan Mihalache, security engineer at Orange.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. The topic of our presentation is how threat actors have learned to brand themselves just like legitimate companies would. And we will explore how the media amplifies this branding, what are the consequences for us as security researchers, and the consequences for the threat actors as well. And we would also like to give a little hint of how to interpret some articles we see online about their sophisticated actions. Hi, I'm Simona. I'm a security researcher at Orange Services, and I'm fascinated by the psychology behind the cybersecurity world, especially how communication and perception can be as powerful as coding.
Hello everyone, I am Stefan. So I'm a security engineer at Orange Services. What really sparked my curiosity was the way these actors build a professional and trustworthy facade, and that's what we're going to explore today.
So this is what we will cover today. Why branding matters, what makes up an APT brand, how the media amplifies their persona, and we will go through some case studies, especially focused on their failures. So why is branding so important? The brand gives the attacker perceived legitimacy and power, especially in regards to the extortion attempts against their victims. A sleek website or a consistent logo can make victims believe that they are dealing with a highly organized group. It's also psychological, it increases pressure, it helps with recruitment of other affiliates or partners, so it's making connections in the cyber criminal world. Ironically, it can also mislead us, the researchers, giving this false narrative of sophistication.
Well, to better understand why branding matters, I first propose we look into what actually makes up a threat actor's brand. In other words, the concrete elements they use to present themselves, whether it should be their names, so APT numbers or self-chosen handles, their logo, website, some polished pages with announcements, countdowns, and victim lists, the way they package the tactics as features, and even the public statements they release. Looking at these pieces makes it clear that branding isn't accidental, it's a deliberate strategy. With branding components defined, the missing variable is exposure. Much of that exposure comes from media coverage, so let's look at how media coverage fuels the branding. Firstly, security vendors publish articles, they use logos and include graphics. Then journalists pick those up, reuse the wording and those logos, thus the group's identity gets amplified. Then the more striking the graphics and the ransom notes, the more coverage it attracts. The end result is a feedback loop where research and media attention extend the reach of the threat actor, and it gets perceived as more expertise than it actually is.
So we will start with the names of the attackers. A name builds instant recognition. It's like a logo in words. For example, APT28 makes it look very official, very professional, while Fancy Bear is more playful, but also it's very memorable. Conti, it built a brand behind that name, so when victims received a note from Conti, they knew who they were dealing with, so they already had a persona. So familiarity increases compliance. When we know who we are dealing with, we are more eager to comply with their extortion attempts, for example. Logbit used a bold red logo, and it also borrowed some slogans from the political world, like Make Ransomware Great Again. Also, Revel used a minimalist logo. It's looking very tech startup. It's very sleek. It looks professional. It's almost like a tool for math. I don't know. I feel like it's something like used in a academic word, let's say. And of course, Anonymous, perhaps the most famous logo. It transformed the protest image into a global brand. When they appeared in the late 2010s, their mask wasn't just a logo. The people borrowed this idea and used it in protests over the globe. So this proves just how powerful visual branding can become and how it can transcend hacking into culture.
After looking at names and logos, the next logical step is the place where those elements get showcased, the website or leak portal. This is where the branding becomes operational, where they publish announcements, proof, victim lists, and countdowns. We can have, here we have some examples, like Logbit as well. It's a polished portal with multi-language support, a dark mode UI, very common for leak portals. Black Cat as well, known for a sleek theme and high-resolution logos. Hive used a CMS style site, described as one of the most structured ransomware portals. Here we have some actual print screens. So as we mentioned, Logbit, we can also see Twitter and a section with Press About Us, so their own branding. Here we have another leak site. What was curious to us was the contact page and the frequently asked questions. Here we have Blackout, and this was really interesting because of the How to Buy Bitcoin tab. And here is a classic example of announcements. So they are publishing, and this is all grayed out by them, not by us. So it's grayed out until the deadline and the countdown has reached the limit.
Also, they had a lot of pages of victims. We didn't want to publish that, but there were a lot. Also, we found another example where they published the time in different big cities like Los Angeles or I don't know, something. Probably because they wanted you to know what time it is and how much time you have left until you pay the ransom, something like that.
Next up, with their tactics. Generally, group market technical features like software products to affiliates or victims. You can see this clearly in how different threat actors advertise themselves. Logbit, for example, it advertises encryption speed and bug-free ransomware engine. Other ones, like DarkSide, markets itself at ethical ransomware. We'll see later about the press statements they release. Black Cat, for example, claims superior data leak automation and multilingual platform.
And some groups go as far as issuing press releases, just like a legitimate business would do. The goal of this statement is to clarify their involvement or their principles. So it's like PR management, but in the cybercrime world. For example, when Russia invaded Ukraine, Conti released a public statement saying that they will support the Russian government, and they declared retaliation against Western targets. But then one of their members, a Ukrainian person, was furious about this and hours later published internal chats and source code. So this went to the disruption of Conti just overnight due to that public statement they initially made. So this is just one example of how powerful a public statement can be and how destructive it can be for themselves as well, not just for the victims. Also, so branding can backfire because they sometimes reuse infrastructure, they publish debug strings by mistake, and they have insider leaks or weird technical failures that can blow up their secrets and break the illusion of power and unity.
The clearest evidence of those failures comes from OPSEC leaks. So we'll look into some examples. Fancy Bear. So in the case of Fancy Bear, researchers found reused email addresses, time zones, and Russian local paths in malware builds. So this actually linked despite attempts at anonymity. In other cases, like Lulsec and I'm not really sure right now, but they are publicly boasted on Twitter or social sites, and with the agencies, the governmental agencies, we used the aliases to tie them back to personal accounts. In the case of Fin, developers used LinkedIn profiles or Slack invites in spear phishing setups, so they exposed real-world identities. Another curious case was a PDF ransom notes that contained offer metadata that matched known aliases in the cases of Hades ransomware.
Another weakness are the internal conflicts, just like we mentioned with the Conti. There are some other examples as well where disgruntled members have published the internal chat or the decryptor keys or data, blowing up their secrets and breaking the illusion of their unity and power. For example, Lapsus exploded in 2022. They were everywhere. They published a lot of victims openly bragging about the data they stole and so on. So they made a lot of noise, and the members were really young, so that's what stood out about them. But this attention due to two problems. So the investigators, the police and the government were all over them and tried to disrupt their activities. But also researchers did the same because they had a lot of data to work with. So that led to a lot of issues for them. Also, they had some public fights over ownership and who is better in their gang and so on. So they finally got arrested in 2022, so later that year. Some other examples, and a very weird case, is the one from Tesla Crypt in 2016. So what happened? The researcher decided to contact them over their payment server and asked for a universal decryption key. And to his surprise, because he expected no answer, he got a universal decryption key. And the reason was, okay, we are stopping our operations, we don't want to continue with this, so here's a key. So we don't know if it was by accident or an insider leak or something, but in the end they looked like, okay, we have some principles, we want to look polished and nice, so since we are stopping, here's your key.
One incident that illustrates these failures and the impact of APT branding is the attack on Colonial Pipeline. So the company was or is an operator of a major US fuel pipeline, which was hit on May 7th, 2021 by a ransomware attack. The entry vector was really simple, a compromised VPN login that lacked multi-factor authentication. The password was found in another data breach, likely reused by an employee. In the end, it was a technical issue on DarkSide's side, but Colonial initially paid 75 Bitcoin, so roughly $4.4 million at that time. And as I said, so it was a technical issue on their side. Most of the ransom was later recovered by the US authorities because of the compromised server. Why the impact looked bigger than the technical reality? The pipeline was shut down as a precaution, so for about 6 days, but it was enough to create fuel shortages and panic buying, and that led to public disruption. Headlines and news centered on infrastructure meltdown rather than the basic credential hygiene that was actually the root cause. The fuel price shift was not really was not really that big, but the panic magnified the effects. People were going to gas stations and picking up gas in plastic bags, actually. Here we can see how the media coverage amplified the sense of sophistication and complexity. DarkSide was portrayed as a geopolitical threat, and the attack was named a critical infrastructure attack. But on their own side, so they released a statement framing their motive as being just financial, so they didn't intend to create problems for society, contradicting the media narrative. National security framing, political reaction, and economic panic inflated DarkSide's image into something it wasn't. The core point is that when a high visibility system is hit, even the basic OPSEC failures can be recast as sophisticated attacks.
So one last story. Lockbit issued a public statement some time ago where they said, okay, we are sorry for what we did. One of our affiliates broke the rules, our principles, because one of their affiliates attacked a children's hospital. So they said, okay, it's not something we endorse. Their statement was like a customer service statement. We are removing this partner because it violated our principles and so on. So they also gave the hospital the decryption key. The consequences of this branding are both good and bad for the attackers and for us. So for us, they look very sophisticated. The media makes them look very intricate, very powerful. We see the logo, we see their websites, and the bigger the brand, the faster media coverage it got. It's also about their reputation and economical reputation, because if you are famous, you make more money than the other brands. And they project this illusion of control. We don't attack hospitals, we are ethical hackers. They want to appear rational, but sometimes because they are only teenagers in that group, they are really chaotic and noisy. Do you have any questions? If not, we have a question for you. Have you seen any leak site or ransom that looked too polished, that looked to be too good to be true? Do you have other examples of their failures? We had a lot of examples, but no time to showcase them all.
If not, then we thank you for your attention.
Any questions from the room? I'll give you the microphone.
Hello. What do you think of your experience? The main position of such groups, it's like every disease want to be the famous, or fancy names, bigger benefits. And do you know such any groups that which want to be distant from these two camps?
So most of the times it's not only about being famous, it depends on their motive. So sometimes they want to get more money, so they need that brand to be famous, because if they act as a ransomware as a service and they get money from their tools, for example, they need to be famous, because why would I choose a brand that I don't know anything about? So it really depends on their motives. Sometimes it's just, I have free time and I want to hack something and then I post about it just to brag, but it's not always that. Sometimes it's more about the money or political views, because there are also national governments that endorse these hackers. really depends.
Any other questions? All right. Awesome. Well, let's give another round of applause to Simona and Stefan. Thank you, guys.